Hey guys, for our lesson today, we are going to be starting Module 7, Week 1, Day 1. We're going to be looking at author's purpose. Now, we've talked about author's purpose before. Remember, it is the PI strategy. So we have P for persuasive, I for informative, and then the E for entertain. So we're going to be looking at why the author wrote the text that they wrote. After the video or after the lesson, you are going to do the you do assignment. Then there is an author's purpose writing assignment. And then you are going to work on spelling city and looking at spelling words for this week. So our goal for today is I can identify the author's purpose for writing. Why did they write it? To be successful, you're going to need to look at the text features. Identify the main idea of the text. So remember we learned last week to find main idea, we're going to look at the title, the repeated words. We're going to look at the first and last sentence. And those are all things that can help us to find main idea. You're going to decide, does the author want to persuade me? Is the author giving me information about the topic? Or is the author telling a story to entertain me? So, like I said before, the three reasons that an author may write something is to persuade, to try to convince someone of an idea or try to get them to do something. They might inform you to give you facts about a topic, or they could entertain you to bring joy and fun to the reader through a story. So turn in your book to page 102 and 103. And we're going to read this short read called Let's Build a Park. When I look around our wonderful community, I see only one thing missing. An important thing, though. We don't have a local park. Kids don't have a safe place to play, and families and friends don't have a communal space in which to gather. It is time to fix this problem. I know just the spot for a park, too. The big empty green space near the lake. We could turn it into a gathering space that will bring neighbors together. The neighborhood should make this project a priority. Here's why. First, there is no safe place to gather or play in our neighborhood. Some kids walk to the parks in other neighborhoods to play outside, but that means crossing several busy roads. Some kids play in our streets. A little boy I know nearly got hit by a car while chasing after a ball last summer. Creating a safe outdoor space for kids is a logical solution. Second, the empty green space is ugly and dangerous. It's full of overgrown weeds, broken glass, and other trash. It's a real hazard to children and pets. Building a park there will change a trash heap into a place every resident can be proud of. Picture a green, shady place where grown-ups can relax, kids and dogs can play, and cats can do whatever cats do. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Finally, a new park will build fellowship in the community. Working toward a common goal can really bring people together. Sophie and Kendall Vu, new residents, told me they helped build a park in their last neighborhood. Before the project, people hardly knew each other, Sophie says. Then we worked together and we all got to be great friends. I'll be doing outreach around the neighborhood next week. If you support a new park and want to help make it happen, please sign my petition. Let's all work together to make our community safer, friendlier, and more fun. So as I'm looking at this, I want to think about what is the author's purpose? Why did they write this? And when I think about this, I heard a lot of things that the author wants. The one thing that I see is in the beginning, I'm going to be looking for repeating words. So I definitely see this park idea. They talked about a park a lot. And I also saw them talking about safe. So we want to find this safe place for the park. I know there's safer over here. It's dangerous. So again, they want it to be safe. So I feel like this is really about creating a safe park. Now, I know that she kind of said something right here that makes me think she is trying to get us to do something. It's time to fix this problem. They want to build a park. As the author is writing this, they're trying to get the community to build a park. So I know that if they're trying to get the community to do something, that usually means persuade. So let's look at our choices. Is the author telling how he feels about park? Well, not really. Is the author trying to convince people they need a park? Yeah, that sounds it. Is the author trying to explain about park safety? No, it's not talking about how to be safe. Is the author trying to tell a story about going to a park? Again, that one's not really it either. We know the best answer is going to be B, to convince people they need a park in their neighborhood. All right, let's look at a couple more text and seeing if we can find the author's purpose for writing this one. So this one is called Polar Bears in Danger. Most polar bears could disappear by the end of the century, scientists say. Global warming is to blame. According to a study published this month in Nature Climate Change, most polar bear populations will be in serious decline by 2080. The cause is melting ice. Polar bears hunt seals on the ice. Without ice, the bears must roam on the shore where they are spending more and more time away from their main food source. That means the animals could survive. There's not enough food on land to sustain a polar bear population, Peter K. Molnar told the New York Times. He's the study's lead author. Lack of food leads to another problem. Mother bears may not be fat enough to produce milk for their cubs. Some bear populations could stop having babies, leading to a rapid decline in numbers. Polar bears are the largest land carnivores on the planet. They help keep other animal populations in check. Losing them would throw habitats off balance. Their loss would reverberate through the ecosystem. Marika Holland says she's one of the authors of the study. So as I was looking at this and thinking about repeating words, obviously there's polar bears. And we see this a lot, the bears. We know the problem is that the water is melting, so it's caused by melting ice. Polar bear population, some bears, some polar bears. And as I was thinking about this, I'm trying to ask, is the author trying to get me to do something? Well, you could write a thing saying what we can do to help save the polar bear population, but I don't really think this author wrote about how we can save the polar bears in danger. So then I'm going to think to myself, well, the I is informative. Did the author give me information? Yeah, I learned about polar bears and how they might die out because of the melting ice. It causes them not to get enough food. Then they're not going to produce enough milk for their cubs, and then they stop having babies. And without polar bears, like our whole ecosystem would be a mess. So it gave me a lot of information about polar bears. And then the E is to entertain us, to tell us maybe like a fun, joyful story. And this definitely isn't a story. It's not like it has characters in it. So I'm really leaning towards this is giving me information. So let's look at our choices. A, tell how he feels about polar bears disappearing. I don't really think he's telling us how he feels. I think I can figure it out, but it's not mostly about him telling us. B, to convince people to save the polar bears. Again, he never told us what to do to help save them. He just was saying we should save them and here's why. So I don't think it's convincing us to anything. Or C, to explain how polar bears are affected by global warming. Yeah, it's explaining something, and explain through information is those two things go together. So I really think C is probably the best answer, but I'm going to look at D anyways. to tell a story about a polar bear hunting. I didn't get anything in here about a specific polar bear hunting, so I know my answer is C. All right, let's look at this next story text. It's called Toads Rediscovered. We're looking for why the author wrote this. Until recently, 13 of the 25 species of harlequin toads in Ecuador had gone unseen since the 1980s or early 1990s. Scientists thought most of them had been wiped out by a fungal disease called chytrid. This illness is especially harmful to the harlequin toad. Cortellus says that the Mindo harlequin may have developed a resistance to the disease. That would explain the toad's reappearance, and it could spell good news for other harlequins. Since discovering the first one, Cortell's team has found 5 more. They were all tested for chytrid. None had the disease, but that doesn't mean the survival of the species is guaranteed. Cortellus says the harlequin toads is still endangered. Cortellus is developing a conservative plan with a zoology museum in Ecuador. She wants to make sure that Mindo harlequin toads don't fall back into extinction. So, thinking about this text, the things that I see the most of is these toads, and it is repeating. There's the Mindo harlequin toads, another toad. So we know this is mostly about the toads and how they are going extinct, but we don't want them to go into extinction. So I'm looking, like, the topic is the toads, extinction of the toads, and we've got this idea of this disease. So looking at author's purpose, why did the author write this? To persuade us to do something with the toads. Well, I don't necessarily know that it gave me a plan, so it's probably not going to be persuade. Inform, I do feel like I got a lot of information about the toads. It explained how the toads maybe disappeared and then started to reappear, so I feel like that could be a good option. Or entertained, I didn't get a story about a toad and how they disappeared or how they came back to life. I don't think it was entertained. I really think this one's going to be another informed. So let's look at our choices. To tell about the harlequin's toad's reappearance. That seems like it would make sense. To make people feel bad for the harlequin toad. I don't think the authors ever really go in and make you want to feel like, with the idea of making you feel bad. To explain how the harlequin toads became extinct. That's kind of an interesting thing. And then to tell a story about the toad hunting. So it's not a story. I don't think it's going to be B. I'm kind of on the fence with to tell about their reappearance or to tell about how they became extinct. So I'm going to need to go back and decide, wait a second, is this more about how they disappeared or how they came back? So looking at my details, it's talking about most of them have been wiped out by a fungal disease, and it's really hard for them. But then they developed this resistance to disease, and they reappeared. They've found 5 more, and they tested them. It doesn't mean the survival of the species is guaranteed. It's still endangered. And she's wanting to make sure it doesn't fall back into extinction. So I'm kind of on the fence because it really gave me both pieces. And I'm going to rely on this idea of to explain. So when I explain something that's giving me information, I'm going to say this was about how they became extinct. All right, so you are going to read the paragraph for the buffalo and think about the repeating words. Think about the topic. What are you getting from it? Are you getting being persuaded to do something, informed about something, or explain or entertainment. So we're going to read the story, answer the question. You also have this question that you need to answer using race. What are the 3 reasons an author might write a text? And then how did you decide the author's purpose for writing a text? After that, you are going to do spelling, and then finally you would be done.